Okay. Good afternoon. The Committee on Water and Land is on its agenda for Monday, February 5th, 2024. We are in room 229 as well. Some housekeeping announcements. This is a decision-making hearing only for the 1 o'clock. And as such, we will not be taking in any testimony on this measure, which is SB 2297. The context, including the hearing notice, copies of the bill, and the testimony can be found on our legislature's website. The live video stream and an archive of this hearing can be found on the Senate's YouTube channel. And for those of you as well on Zoom land, again, just to say that this is decision-making on one item, and we'll proceed. Members, SB 2297 is relating to natural resource management, and this clarifies that the Board of Land and Natural Resources Authority shall supersede the Mauna Kea Stewardship and Oversight Authority for all lands designated under the State Conservation District. It also clarifies that the natural resource management, enforcement, and emergency response of Mauna Kea lands shall remain the responsibility of the Division of Conservation and Resources Enforcement, or as we know as DOCER, of the Department of Land and Natural Resources. And members, at the request, Senator Favela asked of OHA with regards to some of the economic viabilities of astronomy as well. And so we have distributed copies of some background with regards to the activities, with regards to astronomy as well, and the school's attendance with regards to activities for your perusal as well. We have several the amendments to be made, and this was with regards to the deferment that we're hearing today with regards to the discussions we had with OHA. And at this time for decision-making, Chair would like to adopt OHA's recommendation that to add the language that makes clear that BLNR has an affirmative and non-transferable duty to uphold and protect the traditional and customary rights of Native Hawaiians as articulated in Article 7 of the state constitution by adding the words on page 4, and that's on line 18, where it adds affirmative and on line 19, or any other entity is the addition. We will amend the effective date to July 1st, 2025 from on page 8 on line 14 and section 7. The original language was, "This act shall take effect upon its approval," and we're recommending that the amendments be the effective date to July 1st, 2025. Thank you, Senator Chang.
Staff says he's on his way.
Oh, okay. We'll take a short break for the arrival of Senator Chang, please. Okay. The Committee on Water and Land is going into decision-making on SB 2297. And with the incoming Senator Chang, just to let you know, Senator, that there's the recommendations for this measure is passing with amendments. One would be adopting a couple of language change of OHA's recommendation. On line 18, we're going to add the word affirmative, and on line 19, or any other entity, and we're amending the effective date to July 1st, 2025. Any discussions? Senator McKelvey.
Go ahead.
No, you first.
Yeah, I understand the
Oh,
amendment.
Senator Favela.
Okay, go ahead. I understand the amendments, and I understand what is this being trying to do, but I don't think it's fair. I really don't. OHA doesn't stick in for anything else that they do, and all of a sudden now they're worrying about the indigenous rights of our people, but they can spend $27 million for stuff that is not even benefiting our people. So I am very, very disappointed that we're gonna take their amendments and not even giving the authority a chance to even get on their feet and try. We gave the university and every other department 50 years on the Mauna. 50 horrible years. And they cannot give these guys one chance to even start 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. So that's not fair to me, just cutting their feet on the way, trying to get this thing on the ground, because the protectors is part of the Mauna Kea advisory committee. So I just kind of very disappointed that we're going to start this now, taking apart and dismantling the whole advisory and the whole Mauna Kea thing, because people want to continue to have possession and ownership. I understand the statutes and all of that. That's great, but they never did a great job.
Okay, thank you. Senator McKelvey.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I actually agree a lot with what was just said. I had a lot of concerns. I was going to probably go no on this measure. However, we had a discussion, and I'm talking to people from my community. The fact there's a delayed effective date until July 1st of 2025, or till 2025, gives them more time, the time that has been asked for in all the opposition. I think they need even more than that. But so that's a big reason why I'm going with reservations right now.
Thank you.
Because they need more time. However, to continue the discussion, I'm going to support your recommendation with reservations. So thank you.
Thank you. Senator Elefante?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate the discussion on this issue. However, having met with the Mauna Kea Stewardship and Oversight Authority and the chair, I understand what you're attempting to do. However, I do agree with Senator Favela that I think we need to give the authority time as they're starting up and they're in the process of hiring an executive director. So I don't feel comfortable supporting the bill despite your amendments here today, and unfortunately I'll be voting no.
Thank you.
Chair, just a clarification. So this have to go to 2 more committees?
Yes.
So what is the chance of them inserting a different date than what your amendments is?
I think at that point in time, we'll have to see.
See, that's the reason why this is gonna be amended in the next 2 committees to exactly what they want in 2024, 2025. It's not gonna be the years that you
I
want,
vote no,
yeah?
if that happens. It's really
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Senator Elefante recommended with amendments. Any further discussions? Hearing none. Vice Chair for the vote.
Okay, Chair's recommendation is to pass SB 2297 with amendments. Chair Noy,
Right.
Vice Chair votes no. Senator Chang,
Reservations.
with reservation. Senator McKelvey,
WR.
reservation. Senator Favela.
No.
Okay.
Madam Chair, recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Thank you, members. This concludes the deferred water and land agenda. Good afternoon. The committees on Water and Land and the Committee on Agriculture and the Environment is on its scheduled agenda for Monday, February 5th at 1:15 p.m. and we're in conference room 229. Just some housekeeping measures. Members, welcome to today's meeting as well, and those that are here participating in this joint hearing today, and those on Zoom land. And for those testifiers, including those on Zoom, we ask that you stand on your written testimony. If your oral testimony is different from your written testimony as well, the time limit for each testifier will be 1 minute. And for those testifying as well, feel free to come up, and you can also continue on with your responses as well if you wish to. The contents, including the hearing notice, copies of the bill and testimony, can be found on the legislature's website. The live video stream and archive of this hearing can be found on the Senate's YouTube channel. Decision-making will occur after we hear from all the testifiers, but I would like to say, though, it depends on our time limit, and at times that we may defer decision-making at another time, and we will have to play by ear if you can bear with us today. We'll proceed with SB 2960, and this is relating to farmers. This requires that lessees and purchases of farm lots and ranch lots use that land for farming and producing food. This authorizes agricultural cooperatives to apply for farmlands. Department of Agriculture. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, chairs, vice chair, and members. Dexter Kishida, Hawaii Department of Agriculture, and we stand on our written testimony and support. Thank you.
Okay, Chair would just want to add, though, that it seems like my opening statements that includes farming and producing food, would just like to add that it also includes other agriculture activities, such as the floral industry as well. Okay.
Sure.
Senator
Just
Favela.
clarification, raising horses, is that part of the agriculture?
Question for Department of Agriculture, Senator Favela's question.
Hello, Dexter Kishida, Hawaii Department of Ag. In many cases, yes, it would count as agricultural activity currently.
Why?
Great question. In the current land use structure, at least in the city and county of Honolulu, I can say that for sure, horses are an allowed activity on agricultural lands.
Okay, we gotta figure that out, so we gotta change that because they're desecrating all the good ag land for horse riding all over the dirt.
And the
Thank
city.
you, Chair.
I'm sorry, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions of the Farm Bureau, from Department of Ag? Otherwise, we'll proceed with Hawaii Cattlemen's Council. Nicole Galase, okay, sends communication in support. Farm Bureau. And perhaps you can respond to Senator Favela's inquiry with regards to allowing horses. Well,
Thank you.
proceed.
Thank you, Chairs, Vice Chair, members of the committees. Brian Miyamoto here on behalf of the Hawaii Farm Bureau. We support this bill. We support any effort that's going to keep ag land in agriculture production. We appreciate your comments, Chair. In the description, it does talk about food production. However, it is just the description and kind of references in the preamble, but the meat of the bill does imply other agriculture production. So absolutely, agriculture in Hawaii is not just food, feed, fiber, fuel, and floriculture. Flowers are extremely important sector of agriculture. we've asked the legislature to possibly look at our district boundaries and maybe the rural designation where these gentlemen farms could go. Again, in rural, agriculture is not a requirement, but we stand strong on our position that agricultural lands, especially these large tracts of contiguous lands, should be for agricultural production. That should be the primary use in the agricultural lands. To address the Senator Favella's questions about horses, horse boarding is something that sometimes is a concern, but horse boarding for agriculture purposes, such as with the ranchers, absolutely. We believe there's a place for horses on agricultural land, especially for a paniolo, with many ranches here across the state of Hawaii, so they do use horses. So horse boarding for agriculture purposes, we absolutely support.
Thank you. Penny Levine sends comments. Okay. Nicolette Choi is in support. Tamara Paulton, an individual, is in support as well. And the infamous Gerard Silva, an individual, in opposition. Is there anyone wishing to speak to SB 2960? IT, anyone on Zoom that has requested to be on hold?
Not for this bill, Chair.
Okay, let's continue on then to SB 3161, and this.
Chair question?
Yes, 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 Senator Decoit.
Thank you. Department of Ag. So Dexter, who will be enforcing the provisions in the bill?
My understanding, it would be the counties who deal with land use.
You realize the counties get hard time dealing with the gentleman estates, yeah?
They do, they do.
So how, I mean, did you guys look at the provisions in the bill?
Yes, yes.
Documentation of current food safety certification from USDA, current plan from the United States Department of Ag, documentation of current organic certification.
The kind of how they define bona fide farmer is.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you realize on small island like Molokai, they cannot even deal with what they're dealing with on the west side of Molokai? Okay, so I guess my next question would be, can you give me an idea of how many people are using ag lands as gentleman estates and who are not engaged in farming?
I can get back to you. I don't have that figure.
Okay, can you get back-
Yeah, we can check with the counties to see if they have a determination of that as well.
If they answer your phone.
If,
Okay, please do.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Sure.
Thank you, Senator Favela.
So I just like clarification, what you just said. So the restriction of residential subdivisions in agricultural lands, protection of agricultural lands is required, agricultural plans, 1 year to 5 year. Who's the person that is gonna be enforcing it again? You're saying for these properties? It's the city?
The counties,
Okay.
correct.
How about you guys all over here, if you guys get time, instead of Senator Inouye, because you gotta go back to Hilo, you guys should take a ride to Kunia. From Eva Beach, where my house stay, all the houses is on ag land, not one permit, not one farmer. It's not even a Jennifer farmer, there's mansions on that mountain. So when are we gonna take that up? Telling me the county, so what we need from you guys to advise us to go to the county and stop this insanity. Take a drive to Kunia and see those mansions on the mountain. How disrespectful to ag A land. You guys gave whole Peely 30 years problems because they was on B land. And these guys doing whatever they like on A land. And then we like protect and raise fruits and vegetables and cows and whatnot, but then we're taking away the A land. Sad. Thank you, Chair.
I just want to add as well, though, those on leased land, with regards to leased lands, with Department of Ag, you do monitor.
Those
That
we
I
can
know
have
because I
strong
have a
figures
10-acre
for.
flower farm and there's monitoring.
Correct,
Okay.
correct.
All right. Senator Gabbard.
Dexter, you had alluded to this earlier in terms of the definition for a bona fide farmer in the bill. So in section 3(2)D, it says a person is one of the qualifications to be a bona fide farmer is one who has a college degree in agriculture. Do you agree with that? Or should
No,
we delete that from the definition?
let me double check that I thought it was one of the qualifications,
Yes,
not
it is.
just the.
There's A through I.
Right. So for example, if they did take courses, that would be one qualifying measure. But if it's comprehensive where it means all of these need to be done, then no. So they should be able to get it by experience or through education, like UH's Go Farm program, for example.
Well, there's an or there, but it's crossed out in the bill. So
Oh, I'm sorry, then we would like the or reinstated,
Okay.
not an and.
Correct.
Thank you for bringing that up.
With that said as well, with regards to leased lands with DOA, and it's not identified here because your restrictions, anyone who applies for a lease with regards to your agency needs to present a plan anyway at the outset. So,
Correct.
yeah, there needs to be
These
some language in there because it doesn't apply to any of the leased lands.
It doesn't, but then our lease should be able to stack on top of these kind of bare
Exactly,
minimum.
because we're already talking about the county's jurisdiction and rightfully so, because they're the ones who's charging the real property taxes, so they should be monitoring as
Right.
well. But true to the concerns that Senator from Molokai and our Eva Senator as well, some of the restrictions here would probably prohibit would-be farmers who wants to grow food for sustainability will probably have a difficult time on agriculture lands as well. So we can continue on some discussions then.
Thank you.
We appreciate your attendance, appreciate it. Okay, Earth Justice, David Henkin. David, IT, I understand David is there.
Yes. Hi, Chair.
Aloha.
Aloha. Good afternoon.
David
David
Henkin.
Henkin.
Sorry, yeah, 2960. I'm sorry, David, you didn't send testimony for 2960, did you?
I did not. I sent it
Okay,
for
all right.
the next bill.
We'll get back to you then.
Okay.
Sorry. Members, any further discussions on SB 2960? Okay, hearing none, let's proceed then to SB. Senator Gabbard, did you have a question? No. We got to you earlier, yeah. SB 3161, and this is relating to the conservation of threatened species. This authorizes DLNR to issue temporary threatened species licenses and draft administrative rules for the conservation of threatened species. DLNR. Okay, aloha.
Good afternoon, chairs, vice chair, members. Ryan Kanakaole, First Deputy DLNR. The department stands on its testimony in support of this bill. This bill is part of our administrative package. It would authorize DLNR to issue temporary licenses for non-lethal take of threatened species as outlined by administrative rule. It would bring us in parity with federal regulators who do have the authority already to authorize limited take of threatened species where there's a long-term benefit to the species and does not contribute to the threatening of the species' continued existence. We also offered some suggested amendments to our own bill after consultation with Earth Justice. We're here for any questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, David. David Hankins, Earth Justice. Aloha.
Aloha. Good afternoon, and thank you. We submitted testimony in opposition to this bill. We'll stand on our testimony and with due respect to
David, can
DLNR.
you speak a little louder, closer to the
Let's see
mic
if this,
there?
is this
All
working
right.
better? Kalamai.
Okay. Proceed.
Okay, we'll stand on our written testimony in opposition. Unfortunately, the amendments proposed by DLNR would not address the fundamental problem, which is that this bill would water down protections for our critically imperiled species, ones that are facing extinction, and I'd be happy to answer any questions the committees may have.
David, I have a question for you as well with regards to some of the amendments that DLNR is proposing. Also includes promulgating the administrative rules, which probably was a concern as well. How do you feel about that?
The amendments don't change the fact that under current law, if you want to kill or injure a threatened species, you need to go through an HCP process that needs to be approved by the Endangered Species Recovery Committee. I was around when the legislature adopted these amendments to 195D, and the legislature was very clear whether a species is endangered or threatened, it needs the same protections to make sure that we don't lose more of our native species. So we enacted intentionally stronger protections than federal law. So putting us in line with federal law is putting our threatened species in danger. We need to go through, there's an existing process to get an incidental take license from the Endangered Species Recovery Committee and from the Board of Land and Natural Resources. This is a loophole that would allow the department to, at the time a species is listed, to say there are certain activities that kill and injure them that are okay, that don't need a license from the board and don't need the review of the Endangered Species Recovery Committee. That's the first sentence. Then as far as the issuance of the license, that can be done, again, without the Endangered Species Recovery Committee and without meeting the standards that are currently in current law, which require a benefit to the species, an increase in their likelihood of recovery. None of that is here. It's just a bad law, and we and the rest of the conservation community, I think you have a lot of testimony on this, are deeply concerned about this, and we urge you to just hold this bill. It's bad policy. It would water down important protections.
Thank you, David. And you'll be around in case there's questions for you later.
I have to jump to a brief meeting,
okay.
but I could
We
certainly come
appreciate your
back.
testimony anyway.
Okay,
Members,
thank
you
you.
want to catch him before he leaves? Nonetheless, Sierra Club, Wayne Tanaka. Aloha.
Aloha. Good afternoon, Chair Inoue, Chair Gabbard, members of the committee. Wayne Tanaka with the Sierra Club of Hawaii. We submitted written testimony in opposition to this bill. Just want to highlight, Hawaii, we're not the continent, right? Our native species and endangered species habitats, they're so unique and they're so fragile and they're so small, so that the line between a threatened species and an endangered species is very thin, and the line between endangered species and extinction is even thinner. And so that's why we employ this really precautionary approach here in Hawaii, because we don't want to watch these species that have evolved over millions of years just end, on our watch, in our generation's time. So just urge you to please hold this measure. Do not roll back protections for our threatened species and bypass expert review. And happy to answer any questions.
Similar question I asked of Justice with regards to the rulemaking.
Yeah, just as
Wouldn't make a difference.
David, yeah, we're still rolling back standards and opening loopholes for, potential loss of these really important.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of Sierra Club? Hearing none, thanks a lot for your testimony. American Bird Conservancy sends communication in opposition. Center for Biological Diversity in opposition, and this is from Max Phillips. Let's see. Okay, we have 3 additional in opposition. Lisa Bishop, Gerard Silva, Nanea Lowe. Anyone else wishes to speak to SB 3161? Okay, members, any questions? Yes, Senator Elefante.
Yeah, Chair for Deputy Director from DLNR.
Catherine Stanaway, Division of Forestry and Wildlife. So I just wanted to clarify, thank you for the opportunity.
Sure.
I just wanted to clarify that any take authorized under this law would be non-lethal. So with respect to take, that would mean harass or harm, not kill. So, and our intent with this measure is to outline any activities by administrative rule, and that would also go through review by the Endangered Species Recovery Committee. That's in the proposed amendments to the bill.
Senator
Yeah,
Elafante.
I haven't asked my question yet. Thank you, though. Thank you for that, explaining that.
Sorry.
No, all good. That's helpful information
Okay.
in respect to one of the testimonies that was presented. So in light of that, there's testimony in opposition from Sierra Club and some other groups. Does DLNR have a response to some of the concerns that were raised from some of these groups?
The administrative rulemaking process is going to be ongoing. Oh, Ryan
can you-
Kanako-Ole,
Yes, thank
first Deputy DLNR. So the administrative rulemaking process that is going to be opened with the amendments proposed in this bill is going to be part of the, it opens up the dialogue when the rules are being promulgated. So with regard to interfacing with Sierra Club as well as Earth Justice on tightening the permitting standards, that's in place with the administrative rules. And I just want to echo what Catherine already responded to in terms of the perceived effect of there being some kind of killing of threatened species. It's not the case in this situation. The permitted takes are going to be for non-lethal, take applications, as well as it has to be part of a conservation plan or program and have a net benefit to the species.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, one of I think your recommendation as well is to operate conservation banks. Can you explain?
I believe that's a separate, that's another bill. What was the bill number for that?
That's SB 3162.
Oh, okay. Not related to 3161?
No.
Okay. Questions for
Sure.
them? Yes, Senator Ikoe, followed by Senator Favela.
So just one question, so what threatened species would you guys expect to receive applications for the temporary license?
So Nene have been downlisted by the federal government from endangered to threatened. So they, under federal law, they can potentially authorize certain take actions. And we would want to be in line with that, but again, these would be non-lethal takes. So we could authorize permits for habitat recovery so Nene are ground nesting birds, and their nests can be hidden in the grass, and in habitat restoration activities, someone could potentially run over a nest on accident. And so if they got a permit that authorized this type of take, non-lethal take, then they could engage in these habitat restoration activities. So right now, they wouldn't be able to.
So you guys would be separate from DOFA in regards to like game management?
Separate from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife?
No,
Yeah,
from
forestry.
Department of Forestry and Wildlife? Because
We're a division of the
Yeah.
Department of Land and Natural Resources.
No, but DOFA handles management of, in this case, invasive species. So you guys,
DOFA is within the DLNR, so we wouldn't be separate, we'd be the same
And you're from
implementing
forestry,
agency. She's
right?
from forestry.
Yeah, she's from
Catherine's from
forestry.
forestry.
yeah, so the thing is because, as you have, say, access deer, you guys have an idea of a non-lethal way for deal with them, or that's just not even on you guys' radar?
Axis deer are not threatened or endangered species.
No, but I think what, like, Mr. Tanaka was saying earlier, irregardless what species, how do you rank that as in taking too much or not too much? Or in your case, when you talk about the NEN, is just somewhat relocation of it? Like when you said about the nests, like you guys, what you gonna do, move them someplace else, or?
The permit could allow, like the running over of the nest, but I mean, it wouldn't allow the taking of any chicks or any killing of any chicks.
No, but you
So,
guys, according to this, is that you guys looking at issuing temporary
Yeah.
permits. So I'm asking you, if you're issuing a temporary permit for the nene, right? If people are running them over, when they ask for the temporary permit, are they gonna be like moving them to someplace else? Or are you guys looking at just eradicating them?
So because it's a non-lethal take permit, there would have to be some type of movement so that there would be no killing.
Yeah, so you never answered my question. Are you taking it to move it someplace else? Or the person receiving the permit is taking it to move it someplace else?
The person receiving the permit would be allowed to do habitat restoration. So in doing the habitat restoration activities, they could potentially run over a nest. So it's not them getting a permit for running over a nest, it's for a permit for doing habitat restoration where they might have an action of running over a nest. Does that make sense? Like, so the nene would still live in the area and they would be making, improving the habitat for the nene. This bill ensures that we have a net recovery benefit for the species. Like, we don't want to decrease the number of nene or anything like that. We want to be able to do actions that help improve nene, and sometimes that results in something related to them, maybe having harm, but not killing. Is that making sense?
No. So what I asked you is that permit allowing them to either, in this case, like you said, restore it or relocate it so that it doesn't put harm for the nene?
So the action would be permitted for the applicant, so DOFA wouldn't be taking the action, the applicant would be, if
Yeah.
granted the permit, yeah.
So how do you oversee that? Do you guys, when you issued a permit, do you guys, get on plan, do they have a plan that they submit to you folks? So that way you understand, or, I mean, for all you know, somebody might just say, yeah, just like go get the permit, maybe I can take them and sell them, and move them someplace else. Who's gonna be oversighting it? Will you guys be oversighting it?
They would submit a management plan to DOFA, and then we would take it to the Board of Land and Natural
And then the
Resources
board would,
to approve, yeah, or deny, yeah.
okay, thank you, Chair.
Yeah, and to add, you're creating safe harbors,
Yeah,
right?
that's a different program, yeah.
Yes. Okay, Senator Favela.
I just one, I know it's asked certain ways, but why are we even rolling back critical protection for this? Why are we, what is the reason? Are we rolling back the protection that you guys are explaining to us over here? And then, the next section is DLNR, does it, make you guys, this bill, make it harder to enforce protection? So you guys talking about you guys going to the board and all that, what is the timeline of the protection of the species or these critical areas that we're talking about? 1 to 2 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks, 1 year? Because you guys give out the permits, so now I'm gonna come over there, I'm gonna clean this area, potentially gonna have nests. But what kind of accreditation do I have besides wanting to clean it? Do I know the proper way of doing it so that we don't have potential nests? I mean, these are the things that, just giving a permit doesn't, because I get a permit, I will go over there, accidentally kill a few nests. Sorry, but, we're gonna make the place better so we can get nests and we can get more nene. But then we're killing the nene when we're going over there. I mean, I'm not saying that's happening, but you're saying that you get the permit, right? And you guys, I don't know, what is the qualification for coming and restoring something like that going forward? What kind of credentials you need? Just a will?
So as far as the setting the standards for the applicants and as well as setting the deadlines, we haven't gone that far. Right now, we're opening the door for administrative rules. So that would be something that would be done through promulgated administrative rules, setting standards, setting review standards.
So you don't think you guys should do that first and then have one bill like this? No.
This bill sets the general review standards of there having to be a net benefit to the species as well as it not being lethal in any regard. So it sets the floor, and then as far as building the standards for the applicants in further detail, that would be through the administrative rules, which would also involve the public and all stakeholders in developing.
So does this bill, though, make it harder for you guys to enforce? Will this bill make it harder?
I think because this creates an additional layering of permitting and DLNR is the oversight agency, it would actually make it, there would be more oversight because this is a permit, this is another permit under our kuleana that we have to oversee and enforce on.
Okay. Senator Elafante. Thank you,
One
Senator
quick follow-up.
Favela.
In your testimony, you mentioned that because at the federal level, Nene went down to threaten instead of endanger. Is that the whole purpose of the reason why for introducing legislation?
That's not the purpose, but we want to be able to do habitat restoration for Nene. And so, or we want to allow also landowners to be able to do that. So right now, we understand they can't under state law. They can only do that, would only be able to do that under federal law, depending on how the federal regulations are listed. So, yeah, this would allow other
And
protections.
does DLNR have a list, as a last follow-up I have is, does DLNR have a list of what would fall under threatened species?
Yeah, under, it's Hawaii Administrative Rule 13-124.
Would you be mind if you could share that with the committees?
Sure.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. If this measure doesn't pass, what happens?
Then the law stays as it is now.
Okay, all right, because the opposition to this measure seems like it's a conflicting or not needed as well, so just to add.
Yes, so
Okay.
currently under state law, threatened species and endangered species are treated the same. And the status quo would continue if this doesn't pass.
Yeah, and this measure doesn't include the word as far as endangered nene, so as Senator Elafante did mention, a list of the threatened species, then would can you make sure it be sent then to the committee as well? Thank you. All right, let's continue on with the communications. Lisa Bishop in opposition, as well as Gerard Silva and Nanea Lowe. This is with regards to SB 3161. Anyone else wishes to speak to SB 3161? Okay. Hearing none, we'll proceed then with SB 3338, and this is relating to water. This establishes a WTL-AEN policy coordinator and other positions within DLNR for coordination of Red Hill VI initiatives. This creates the Red Hill Remediation Special Fund and also appropriates funds. DLNR.
Ryan Kanakole, First Deputy DLNR. DLNR stands on its testimony in strong support of this bill. The positions created by the bill will be instrumental in implementing the VI's report and recommendations. We're here to support their role in restoring the health of our aquifer. We did offer one amendment to the portion of the bill creating the special fund. We recommend an amendment clarifying that the cost of the actual remediation to the aquifer be borne by the U.S. Navy. We're here for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Department of Health. Aloha, thanks for bearing with us. Thank you for your participation.
Vice Chair, members of the committees. The department, Kathleen Ho on behalf of the Department of Health. I am the Deputy Director for Environmental Health. We stand in support of this bill, but ask for a clarification on page 6, line 2. It simply states that it is the state's policy, the department will be the state's policy lead. We ask that it be clarified to say that it is the state's policy lead on the Red Hill VI initiatives. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you very much. Budget and Finance, Sense Communication, comments. Okay, University of Hawaii. Sense Communication in support. Board of Water Supply. Aloha. Thanks for bearing with us, Erwin. Aloha.
Thank you. Good afternoon, chairs, vice chair, committee members. Erwin Kawata with the Honolulu Board of Water Supply. We stand on our written testimony and strong support. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Sierra Club.
Good afternoon again, chairs, vice chairs, members of the committees. Wayne Tanaka with Sierra Club Hawaii. We are in support of this measure. However, we do think that it's important to include some pretty critical amendments. We definitely want to see forward remediation. I think we have to keep in mind, though, that's going to take decades, right? It could take 30 years or longer. And so we have to pass on the lessons that we've learned over these last 10 years to the future iterations of ourselves so they can continue to maintain the Navy accountable to cleaning up its mess. We know now, for the last 10 years, the military lied, right? They use their political influence and to establish their credibility and drag their feet, dismiss their concerns, and fool everyone, including the legislature, right? And I can't blame you, because why would the military lie about our drinking water? But they did, and they're going to do it again, right? Maybe not so much in the next couple of years, but 5, 10, 15 years. So we need to politically insulate whatever entity is in charge with making sure the Navy cleans up its mess. And so that's the basis for the amendments that we've asked for. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Wayne. Free Access Coalition, John and Rita Shockley, sends communication in support. Chris Cofield, Democratic Party of Hawaii. Kupuna for the Mo'opuna, sends communication in support. Dr. Cohn sends comments. Environmental Caucus of the Democratic Party in support. Comments both from Corey Harden and Giovanni Sclacarandis. In support, Arnold Cutler, Danielle Guillen in support as well. Okay, there's quite a few. There's about, in support, there are 15 that sends in communication in support. Jamie Simic sends communication as comments. Anyone wishes to speak to SB 3338? Okay, members, any questions? Hearing none, let's proceed to SB 3339. This relates to Red Hill Remediation Authority. DLNR.
Good afternoon, Ryan Kanako-Ole, First Deputy DLNR. The department stands on its testimony, offering comments, and is here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Attorney General? Wade Hargrove?
Yes. Good afternoon. Chair Noy, Chair Gabbard, members of the committee. My name is Wade Hargrove. I'm a Deputy Attorney General, and I'm here for the Department of the Attorney General to testify in opposition to the measure. The authority's stated mission to oversee and implement remediation of the Red Hill bulk fuel storage facility is in apparent conflict with the Department of Health's regulatory authority to do the same. And that's the concern that we have, create conflicting authorities.
Thank you very much. And you're in opposition. Thanks for being here as well. Department of Health.
Chairs, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Kathleen Ho on behalf of the Department of Health. We stand in opposition to this bill in basically the same argument that the Attorney General's office has. There's overlapping authority. In fact, the bill requires allows the authority to oversee the remediation and take direct action, which would be cause some overlapping and conflict with our rules and regulations. Thank you for the opportunity to testify and be available to answer the questions.
Thank you so much. Budget and Finance sends comments as well as the Procurement Office sends communication comments. University of Hawaii in support. BWS.
Thank you, committee chairs, vice chair, members. Erwin Kawata with the Board of Water Supply. We stand on our written testimony and strong support. Thank you.
Erwin, you've heard the AG as well, the Department of Health. Any comments?
We see this authority as raising the level of the importance of remediating the aquifer, cleaning up the contamination, both at a state policy as well as a statutory one. We don't feel that it is in conflict with existing regulatory authorities that the Department of Health has. In fact, it would augment and I think strengthen the work that they're doing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sierra Club?
Good afternoon. Oh, sorry, this is, so we're in support with
3339.
amendments. Same basic comments that I just mentioned. I'm happy to offer a draft that could kind of implement those recommendations that we've made for amendments. And I do want to point out too that, we had to sue the Department of Health twice, in 2017 and 2019, just to get them to uphold state law that would require these permits, these tanks to be permitted, right? And so clearly, the DOH we can't simply rely on the DOH's regulatory authority to make sure our aquifer is fully remediated. So just wanted to point that out as part of our testimony. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Democratic Party of Hawaii in support. Puna for Mo'opuna in support. Dr. Joseph Kohn sends comments, as well as the Environmental Caucus of Democratic Party in support. Two individuals, actually, there's 12 communications in support and 3 sending comments. Anyone else wishes to speak to SB 3339? Members, any questions with regards to any of the testifiers? Okay, we'll proceed then. Let's move to the next measure, and this is SB 2184 relating to adaptation pathways planning. This expands the authority of the state and counties to develop adaptation pathways plans to modify and relocate infrastructure away from critically threatened areas to locations outside the sea level rise and coastal flooding exposure areas. Okay, SB 2184, Michael Kane, or DLNR. Aloha again, Brian.
Aloha, Ryan Kanakaole, Department of Land and Natural Resources. We stand on our testimony in strong support. This bill will enable the state and counties to work with property owners on a region-by-region level to develop plans for infrastructure that are within the areas that are threatened by sea level rise and coastal flooding. We've offered several amendments to the bill to also help address climate change impacts on cultural resources, commercial properties, and industrial properties as well. We're here for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Office of Planning and Sustainable Development. Aloha.
Aloha chairs, vice chair, members. Sarah Chang with the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development, and we stand on our written testimony in support of this bill.
Okay, thank you. Leah Laramie. That's the Hawaii Climate Change Mitigation and Adaptation Commission in support. Charles Fletcher, University of Hawaii in support, as well as Surfrider Foundation. George Vieira and Denise Antolini sends communication in support. Anyone else wishes to speak to SB 2184? Members, any questions? Okay, hearing none, we will proceed then to SB 3300. This is relating to the coastal zone management, and this requires the county planning commissions, the county councils, and designated authorities on coastal zone management to seek to minimize, where reasonable, any risk to development from sea level rise and other coastal hazards. Office of Planning and Sustainable Development. Aloha.
Good afternoon, chairs, vice chairs, members of the committee. My name is Tony, the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development. We stand on our written testimony in support of this bill with a technical amendment.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, DLNR.
Aloha, Ryan Kanako Ole, Department of Land and Natural Resources. The department stands on its testimony in support. We also offered a technical amendment to better align the language with 205A26 regarding natural resource risks. Thank you.
Mahalo. Hawaii Climate Change Mitigation and Adaptation Commission, Lee Laramie sends communication in support. University of Hawaii, Charles Fletcher in support. Democratic Party of Hawaii in support. And two communications from Tamara Pelton and Denise Antolini in support. Anyone else wishes to speak to SB 3300? Hearing non-members, any questions? Yes, Senator Decoit.
Thank you, Chair.
Who did you want to?
DLNR, please.
DLNR?
Thank you. So don't you guys already try to minimize any risk from sea level rise or other coastal hazards where new developments are proposed?
I believe that's within the purview of OCCL. Yes.
But you guys don't, no, but you guys do it.
So, and then as far as the SMA authority, oversight authority is concerned, that's with the counties and the planning. There are various planning departments, or in Honolulu County's case, I believe that's with the county council. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Okay. Anyone else then wishes to speak on SB 3300? Hearing none once, otherwise we will say aloha to that measure. We will continue on the agenda items, and agriculture is next for the next several bills. Aloha, Senator
Thank you,
Gabbard.
Chair. We'll start off with SB 2373, authorizing the Director of Finance to issue general obligation bonds to finance capital improvements to various irrigation systems, Department of Ag.
Good afternoon, Dexter Kishida, representing Department of Agriculture, and we stand in support.
Thank you. Micah Munakata from Ulupono.
Aloha.
Good afternoon, Chair Gabbard, Chair Inouye, Vice Chair LaFontaine, members of the committees. My name is Micah Munikata. I'm testifying on behalf of the Ulupono Initiative. We stand on our testimony in strong support. Our testimony was a bit lengthy. There's a lot of data points in there, and it identifies some of the irrigation systems that are in desperate need of funding. We appreciate you hearing this measure today. It's always a good educational opportunity to identify some of these projects that are across the state. The Department of Ag manages about 5 irrigation systems and additional reservoirs. The ADC also manages systems and has to look at development of these water resources. Just right off the bat, we have it again listed in our testimony, but we have about $42.2 million in capital improvement projects just for the Department of Ag, and about a little over $191 million for ADC to look at some of their water resources. So it's a massive amount of money, but the need is there. Water is critically important. Irrigation can double or triple crop yields. And it also plays an important role in climate change adaptation.
Sorry,
So we
Mike,
really
your time
appreciate it, you hearing this measure. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
David Arakawa from Land Use Research Foundation. In support, Brian Miyamoto, Hawaii Farm Bureau.
Good afternoon, chairs, vice chair, member of the committees. Brian Miyamoto here on behalf of the Hawaii Farm Bureau. You have a written testimony in support. We stand in strong support. The previous speaker articulated very well the critical need for water. These systems need to be repaired. They need funding. So we do request that you include, Chair, in the bill, the amendments that we're proposing in our testimony, which lists infrastructure irrigation projects. That way we can have some hard numbers in this measure, and your colleagues can see the true cost that it will take for us to get agriculture where we need to get it. Water is critical. No water, no agriculture, no food. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Brian. Next is Myung Oh, Local Food Coalition on Zoom. Myung, you with us?
Not present on Zoom, Chair.
Thank you. In support, Nicole Galassi from the Hawaii Cattlemen's Council in support. Anyone else wishing to testify on SB 2373? Members, any questions?
I have a question, either to Ulupono or Farm Bureau. Why isn't Waiahole Waikani added to this measure, or is it because it's on? I was just kind of curious.
Sorry, Chair, what was the question?
Waiahole Waikani.
Why isn't?
It's not in here?
Chair, there are many systems. These are just the ones that we're aware of. The list could be a lot bigger,
okay.
quite honestly. These are just the ones that we're aware of. There are other systems that could be added into it, and it is our hope as we go through the process, more systems are identified, more infrastructure is needed.
If I can build off that, Chair,
Sure.
I don't know the particulars of that particular system. I'm sure it could use funds, to be quite honest. The list that we have in our testimony, as I'm sure it's reflected in the Farm Bureaus, is really identifying the immediate need. A lot of the times what happens is what the department submits to the executive budget and then eventually comes to you folks is already cut. These are the projects that are in desperate need. They've been Band-Aid approach and they need to be addressed immediately. So when the departments come forward with some of these asks, it's a true need. They need it now. So unfortunately, it's not always what you're seeing every time.
DOA, is it because maybe Waiahole is part of
ADC.
ADC and not, no longer Kamehameha schools then, Bishop Estate?
That could be part of it, but I think as Micah said, this really is focusing on some of the top priorities.
Oh, okay.
There is a SB 2932 later, there's more encompassing of our systems and water systems and land. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Dexter, so, which systems is included in here?
In this is Waimanalo, Waimea are the two, and then as well as creating a or money for a master plan for future work on our irrigation systems.
So you're missing 3 other systems that is under the Department of Ag, of which I know major deterioration on your MIS system. But why isn't that in here?
We didn't author this version of the bill, but we would be in support of adding more, or as stated in SB 2932, I think all the systems are in that version as well.
Would you say that MIS is probably the most deteriorated system, knowing that its rubber lining is completely gone and it loses about 1 million gallons of water a day to transevaporation?
I can check with my ARM team on which we would designate as the most deteriorated, but I do understand the concerns because of the size of the system as well.
And then how much is needed in the geo bonds?
So in this, it would be 8.5 million total.
Can you let us know what is the total of the 5 systems?
For all 5 systems? Sure. Sure.
Thank you.
I can do that.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I have another, it's my understanding that the Kauai irrigation system under DLNR is considering with the transfer to ADC. Have you guys got a response from ADC yet, whether they're going to take over the Kauai irrigation?
Ryan Kanakole, Department of Land and Natural Resources. So we have not gotten a response back from ADC, but that transfer of assets has been in the conversation, yes.
Oh, okay. All right. It'll probably end up being part of this in the future, I guess.
I would assume so, if
Okay.
it goes over.
But that doesn't include the entire if I remember, the East Kauai system, and then there's a part that's on another side, but ADC is not taking the entire irrigation, I understand.
I don't
You
want
don't?
to.
Okay.
I don't know
All
that
right.
the extent
Do
of
you know
the.
anything about the
No.
transactions?
ADC right there.
Oh, okay, all right, sure. Sorry. I missed you. Interested in your, you didn't send testimony? Okay.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. I'm Wendy Geedy. I'm with the Agribusiness Development Corporation. And we do have two bills, one Senate bill, one House bill, in regards to taking over the East Kauai
Oh, okay.
irrigation
This year.
system in
Oh,
this
okay.
year.
Okay.
And so pending the funding to basically be able to maintain and operate it, we would very much like to take over the system from DLNR.
Oh, okay.
And we've been doing our own due diligence.
Okay, with my earlier question, I know that irrigation system on Kauai is huge, but you're not taking the entire, just one portion.
It's huge, you are correct. It's a portion of East Kauai, and we own a massive irrigation system on the west side that we have included in the 2932, some of those items.
Oh, okay, because I thought it was just the west side that you were taking over. But I'm glad you guys finally, at least for DLNR's sake, that you guys have been responding.
Please keep asking me any questions that
Okay,
you
all
have.
right, thank you, Chair.
Okay, we'll move on to SB 2596, clarifying the Land Use Commission's decision-making for the adoption of county maps for the designation of important ag lands should be through a rulemaking proceeding. And so we'll start off with Daniel Ordenker from Land Use Commission, who was here earlier.
Aloha.
Aloha kako, chairs, vice chairs, committee members. Scott Derrickson, the chief planner, the State Land Use Commission. I'm here for Dan Ordenker. We did submit testimony on this bill, and the main thing we want to point out is that there is a current Supreme Court case that's addressing this issue of IAL maps and the adoption thereof right now. And until that happens, we're not going to know what kind of guidance either we need to do in terms of our procedure, or you as legislators will need to change the statute. So we suggest holding off at least on that portion of the bill. And we would point out also that changes to the IL maps may affect property rights. You cannot do that under rulemaking. So it's an improper legal method for changing property rights.
Is that why the suit is there?
That's part of
On
the,
the-
that's part of
on
the
the private
issue, but it's
portion?
it also involves issues of public notice, public participation.
When was that filed? How old is that suit?
It's been, I'm gonna ask my deputy AG, about 6 months. So it's relatively current and new. When they'll take it up, I think they are taking it up currently. Okay, so it's been fully briefed, now we're just waiting for the Supreme Court to.
So with that said, this is the IAL lands dedications. So how's the counties doing? Some are updating their plans right now, or have done some. No,
Are you referring to their community plans and general
Yes, yes.
plans?
they're more on the general plans, yeah.
I do understand that some of the counties are in the process of updating general
Oh,
plans.
okay. All right, thank you.
Next is Curtis Lung
Thanks for
from
being here.
DPP. In support, Department of Ag.
Thank you, Chair. Dr. Kishida, Department of Agriculture, and we stand on our testimony in support, but do defer to LUC and OPSD as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Hawaii's Thousands Friends is opposition. Hawaii Farm Bureau.
Thank you, Chairs, Vice Chair, members of the committees. Brian Miyamoto here on behalf of the Hawaii Farm Bureau. You have a written testimony in support. We were going to stand on our written are on our written testimony and support, but in light of what the LUC said, we would defer to the LUC and the Supreme Court. We absolutely support IL. Again, it's an effort to preserve agricultural lands for agricultural production. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Caitlin Shimizu in support, and Gerard Silva opposed. Any questions, members? Okay, moving on to SB 2575, relating to the environment, prohibits the mining, extraction, and removal of minerals from the seabed in all state marine waters under certain conditions. Prohibits the issuance of any permit for or in connection with the development or operation of any facility or infrastructure associated with the mining, extraction, or removal of minerals from the seabed within state marine waters. First up is Department of Health.
Kathleen Ho on behalf of the Department of Health. We stand on our testimony.
In support. Thank you. Ted Boland from Hawaii Reef and Ocean Coalition is in support. Sherry Pollock with 350 Hawaii is in support. Sierra Club of Hawaii.
Good afternoon, Wayne Tanaka with the Sierra Club of Hawaii. We'll just stand on our written testimony in support of the measure.
Great, thank you, Wayne. Dave Mullenix with Greenpeace Hawaii on Zoom.
Not present on Zoom, Chair.
Thank you. And let's see, we have a number of others. Neil Nathan, Douglas McCauley, Robert Culbertson, Inga Gibson, Donna Wong, Keopo Relitz, B.A. McClintock, Lynn Matsuo, Keone Shizuma, Regina Gregory, and Tamara Paulton, all in support, and George Silva opposed. Members, any questions? Yes, Senator Figueroa.
Not sure what, Elena? With this bill going forward, and I know I keep hearing international waters, and I know Congressman Casey is doing a moratorium for the seabed mining of July 2023. For this bill passing, is that going to be just within our state review going forward?
So for this specific bill, if it passes, it would create prohibitions and oversight within state waters, the 3 mile off the coast limit, excluding, of course, federal jurisdiction, which some are near shore.
I'm sorry. You know why it kind of puzzles me, because I understand federal jurisdiction, yeah? So these foreigners, they know the same thing too, and they know how to get around certain things. So to me, any water touch our shores is our water. I mean, federal, whatever, so we gotta figure this thing out, because this is the reason why we suffer on an island, because everybody come over here and rape all our resources when it comes to outside of the state lines. They know that, they know the rules. So, how are we gonna get this done? Not asking you to come up with them, but how can you help us to ask Congress to put in more parameters, not just with the sea mining, stealing all our fish and taking them back to their country and selling them back to us. It's been a problem for years. When I wanted to ban all the long net fishing that causing all contamination and raping our reefs and busting up our coral, and come to the sea, to the shores that we gotta pick up and clean up because of their neglect. But they said, oh, Senator, it's international waters. So how can we go about broadening not only this scope, but those things too going forward?
I think you sort of answered that question by saying, we have to push for our federal delegation, as well as, on the international side would be the federal delegation as well.
Thank you, Chair.
Yes.
Chair, just one
Thank you.
question, Chair. So, if the bill prohibits the issuance of seabed mining permits, does this mean you currently could still issue one permit if the board approved it?
if currently, if this bill does not pass, is what
No,
you're saying?
if the bill passes and prohibits it, does it mean the Board of Land and Natural Resources can still approve a permit?
So as I read this bill, it says regardless of any law to the contrary, mining, extraction, and removal of minerals from the seabed will be prohibited. So it seems to extend over that and modify the board's authority. So I think the board would have to follow this law as well. And I mean, it's clear from the just the first section that, all removal of minerals from the seabed would be prohibited.
I've just seen them make exception to the rule. It's kind of alarming for me. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to the next measure, SB 2803, relating to the Kohala Ditch, makes the Department of Ag responsible for the routine maintenance of the Kohala Ditch, requiring the Department of Ag to develop a plan for the refurbishment of the Kohala Ditch and submit a report to the legislature. First up is Department of Ag.
Good afternoon, Dexter Kishida, Hawaii Department of Agriculture. We stand in our testimony and would like to just reiterate that we're estimating an initial cost for a study to see what liabilities, et cetera, are involved to be about 1.5 million to complete. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Hawaii Farm Bureau.
Thank you, Chairs, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Brian Miyamoto here on behalf of the Hawaii Farm Bureau. You have a written testimony support. We don't need to talk again about the importance of water for agriculture purposes. We just wanted to clarify that this isn't an attempt for us to ask, or this is not our bill, but to ask that this system go to the state. We just need the funding for the system. We want to revive the system. This is a 14.5-mile system. Previously, it did serve roughly 10,000 acres or so of agricultural land. As we try to increase agriculture, double our food production, work on farm-to-school programs and our farm-to-food bank program, we need the water that's necessary for our farmers and ranchers to be successful. So we understand that there are some issues, or possibly with the 10 million that was appropriated last year. We're hoping that those issues can be resolved. Again, this is not an attempt for anyone to ask that the state take over the system, just to provide resources for the maintenance of the system. Again, maintaining systems are very expensive. Thank you.
Myung Oh on Zoom for the Local Food Coalition.
Not present on Zoom, Chair.
Thank you. And also Nicole Galase from the Hawaii Cattlemen's Council in support. Anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Members, any questions?
Did the Attorney General leave already? Oh, okay. DLNR, I can ask you, former deputy AG.
Let me pull up the bill real
And
fast.
I know, I understand you're representing DLNR and
Yeah.
not the Attorney General, but since you've been there, when you have issues like this, because it's a private ditch, and we're providing state funds to maintain conflicts, or what's best. And I know as a former mayor, I've always been told anything private we stay away from with regards to public funds. So I was just kind of curious. That's why I asked to see if there was anyone from Attorney General's office here.
There is, but Ryan Kanakole, DLNR, I'll offer you my unqualified opinion with regard to public funds being used for private maintenance. There typically is, if state funds are used or public funds are used to maintain private infrastructure, private property, there is a risk to the state absorbing liability in the long run.
Okay, well, reason I bring this up, because I was here in 2006 when the first fall of the ditch happened at our big earthquake in 2006. And I was responsible for GVO, government operations, at that time. And I remember working with civil defense when Senior Senator Inoue, because we were in session, that we needed to come up with all of the state's damages, which we did. We worked hard on it because we needed to give FEMA, while we were in session, the cost for maintaining the entire state's damages. One of them included the Kohala Ditch. We avoided that as far as civil defense was concerned. But of course, we were overweighed by Senior Senator Inoue. So we did provide funds at that time, but the reason was not as a private owner of the ditch, but it was there to help our constituents because they were farmers. There were 92 farms in operation at that time during that period. And when I returned after 2015 election to 14, we also found out, and Kohala was part of my district. And I think at that time, it dwindled down to less than 10 farms. And only because of the management of the private sector. At that time, it was owned by a Japanese company, but went into, I guess, bankruptcy. So now it's owned by a finance company out of Florida. And so I was just kind of wondering if we're doing the right thing.
So there's a number of factors that weigh, you have to weigh in terms of whether the states, may be risking liability by providing funds for improvement. It's like continued maintenance of the system or the structures or infrastructure by the state, and the extent of those improvements.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Senator Fonte?
Yeah, question for Farm Bureau, Mr. Miyamoto. Hi again, Mr. Miyamoto. I know in your testimony you mentioned that 10 million was appropriated last session. Do you know if any of that funds were released?
Thank you, Vice Chair. I believe there are some issues. I was talking to the Department of Agriculture earlier today. I actually thought that was something that was happening. I think there's something going on with the owners of the system, the Kohala Ditch Co-op. So I think I generalized saying there are some issues, and we're hoping that maybe the portion of doing the report, the study, the plan might be what we look at this time to assist with hopefully reviving that system and getting the water to the ag folks.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. All right, moving on to the last measure on this agenda, SB 2932. Appropriates funds for CIP projects per the ag infrastructure of the state, the Food and Product Innovation Network, and outstanding debt on the Waiahole water system. First up is Department of Ag.
Thank you, Dexter Kishida, Department of Agriculture. We stand definitely in support of this measure. Would like to add a little bit of clarification to the water systems, as was mentioned a little earlier. Currently, about 27.5 million is in the requested administration's budget for water systems, so not including land. And the 8.5 million that we spoke about earlier was not included in the administration's budget. Included in the budget is the Pu'upulehu enlargement in Waimea, Molokai irrigation system work, and a Lower Hamakua project. The other items, as mentioned, Waimanalo, Waimea, and the system improvement study was not included in the administration budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is ADC.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members. This is Wendy Gady with ADC. There's a couple of things I wanted to point out. Obviously, investing in irrigation is investing in the state goal of more local food. It protects our local drinking water and our aquifer. I wanted to note that the Mililani Mauka fires were fought with the reservoir systems that ADC manages. I also wanted to let you know that in regards to the Waiahole debt, it originally cost $8.5 million, and our farmers have already stomached $9.6 million. This is really difficult. There's a couple of allocations for land. The $1.3 million is In light of Maui, it is the most critical. If we don't have it, we are shut off from our water in West Kauai. The 64 million is disadvantaged, basically it's human traffic victims that are actively farming. They can't qualify for a loan. They would only be able to get 15 acres. Most of them are farming 50 to 60 acres, some of them as much as 150 acres. It also.
Sorry, your time's up now. Okay. Thank you. Next is Micah Munakata from Ulupono.
Good afternoon, chairs, vice chair, members of the committee. Micah Munikata here on behalf of the Ulupono Initiative. We'd like to stand on our testimony in strong support. Thank you very much for hearing this measure, Chair, and putting all those details into this. I think what we tried to do was put forward a bill that really has all the agricultural asks from state agencies and departments. Again, trying to put stuff in front of you folks that what the true need is. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Mike. Myung Oh on Zoom.
Not present on Zoom, Chair.
Thank you. And Caitlin Shimuzu is in support. Any questions, members?
Department of Ag and maybe Farm Bureau as well. Most of the items and information we have for the expenditure part has to do with irrigation, but I see some that are not, and it has to do with marshaling yard, but the Honolulu one, I think, belongs to the state, so that's no question. Which slaughterhouse are we talking about on item E, slaughterhouse facility design construction for improvements?
I believe.
The only one that I know of is a private. It's a private system and owned by a private company. So why are we providing funds?
I believe the 4 million was under ADC, it was requested for ADC to create a small animal slaughter facility on Oahu.
Okay, but this has nothing to do with Hawaii Meats then?
No.
Okay, the one at Kapolei or where?
Correct,
It's a separate slaughterhouse.
Okay,
Correct.
all right, okay, so the small animals like the piggies.
Yes,
Yeah, because I
correct.
understand
There's definite need
Oahu
statewide.
does not have a facility for that as
Correct.
well. Okay, but the rest are, so they're all state
All they're
owned.
state-owned
Okay,
assets.
all right, thanks.
Thank you.
Chair, my apology, we did submit testimony, but was late. May I speak briefly? And I think, thank you, chairs, vice chair, members of the committees, Brian Miyamoto here on behalf of the Hawaii Farm Bureau. We absolutely support this. It took a while to write the testimony. I didn't want to underrepresent of how important this omnibus agriculture infrastructure bill is. So to address some of the questions that you had, Chair, Inouye, the Honolulu Marshing Yard, that's where the Hawaii Ulu Co-op is.
Yep.
So not only are we addressing infrastructure needs for agriculture, value-added facilities, slaughterhouse facilities, our food product and innovation centers, also ag parks. So again, this is the omnibus. This is almost the Hawaii agriculture farm bill. So we're talking about everything across the board. Again, we are looking for that investment in agriculture. So thank you, my apologies, chairs, for the late testimony, but this is an extremely important measure, and you can see the price tag that's associated with it. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Chair, I just have one question for ADC. You did mention, maybe I heard wrong, about one of the needs specifically. Did you say Wailua or Waihole?
Oh, it's for paying off Waihole?
Okay, because I had earlier asked on the other bill, why wasn't Waihole involved in that measure? Okay.
It's involved here. And you had also asked about East Kauai, and in the other
Yeah.
bill, there are 3 full-time equivalents asked for, as well as $750,000 a year for the first 3 years. And I also just want to touch on the Food and Product Innovation Network.
But you know what, I don't see Waihole,
In this?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, unless I'm.
Last paragraph.
Oh, okay, the 4.4. Okay, sorry.
Do you have any other questions
No,
for me?
no, I'm fine, thank you. We're running close out of time. Thanks. Thank you, Chair.
So we want to go into decision making?
Sure.
don't you start off with yours?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, guys, I'm late. Recommendation, so we'll just wait by you, okay? Which one? First one?
If you read it like this,
Okay.
it should be good.
Okay.
8161?
Okay. 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 All right.
I'm gonna hold it. Yeah.
Which one?
8161.
Yeah.
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 That's your right.
1 second, 1 second. This is the one I want you to fill, right? Right. Yeah, okay, all right. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Okay.
We didn't go,
We can go into
we never,
recess. We're
okay,
still live.
all right. Okay, IT, we won't go into recess. We're fighting for time here. We'll proceed with decision-making with regards to the committees on water and land and agriculture and the environment. First off, SB 2960 relating to farmers. Chairs recommended that we pass with the amendments. We'd like to defect the date to July 1st, 2050. And to address the bona fide farmers, I'd like to add that we provide that any of the following criteria, that they meet any of the following criteria on page 7 and 5. Okay, line 5. Okay, any discussions? Hearing none, Vice Chair, for the Committee on Water and Land, Chair's recommendation to pass with amendments on SB 2960. Chair votes aye.
Okay, Chair's recommendations to pass SB 2960 with amendments. Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Chang.
Aye.
Senator McKelvey.
Yes.
Senator Favela.
Aye.
Madam Chair, recommendations adopted.
Same recommendation for AEN. Any discussion? Chair votes aye.
Chair's recommendation on SB 2960 is to pass with amendments. Chair Gabbard votes aye. Vice Chair is excused. Senator DeCoite.
Aye.
I'll vote yes. Senator Roy.
Aye.
Recommendation's adopted.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. SB 3161 relating to the conservation of threatened species. Chairs would like to support the Attorney General's opinion with regards to this and Department of Health as well. So we'll defer this indefinitely. Okay. Hearing none, you guys okay with that?
Yeah.
All right.
All good.
SB 3338 relating to water. Will adopt the Department of Health's recommendations and the amendment on page 6, line 2, replacing, quote, the state's policy lead, unquote, with the state, quote, the state's policy lead on Red Hill VI initiatives. We'll defect the date to July 1st, 2050. We'll also adopt DLNR's amendment clarifying that the cost of the remediation of the aquifer should be borne by the U.S. Navy. Any discussions?
Yeah, Chair, on this measure and also 3339, the following measure, the committee needs more time to go over some of the testimony, and we have some unanswered questions, so we'd like to defer decision-making on SB 3338 for AEN to Friday, February 9th at 1:05 PM in room 224.
Okay, so your deferment is the recommendation that I announced remain the same?
Yes.
Okay, all right. For the Committee on Water and Land, then we'll take a vote on SB 3338 with the amendments. Any discussions, Water and Land Committee? Vice Chair for the vote, Chair goes aye.
Okay, Chair's recommendation to pass SB 3338 with amendments of the 5 members present on water, land. Any no votes or votes with reservations? Hearing none, Madam Chair, recommendations adopted.
Okay, thank you. On SB 3339 relating to the Red Hill Remediation Authority, Chair's recommendation is that per the Attorney General's testimony on this bill creates ambiguity and the potential for confusion with respect to how the goals of the authority and the regulatory responsibilities of the Department of Health's UST program are to be effectively implemented. So the chair's recommendation is to defer this measure. Senator Gabbard, your comments?
Yes, actually, I would, as I mentioned, I would like to defer our decision-making until Friday.
Okay.
We just need some more time.
Okay, would you agree to deferring it indefinitely? Then we don't need any votes.
No, I would not.
You wouldn't?
No, I would like to defer until February 9th, 1:05 PM in room 224, our decision-making.
Yeah, but what I'm asking is, my recommendation is to defer indefinitely. So are you in agreement? And
No.
but you'll take a vote, you're not in agreement. Okay. Let's see, we won't take action. We don't need to. Yeah, we don't need to. Yeah, yeah. Okay, the Committee on Water and Land, then recommendation is to defer this indefinitely. Okay. And then you can make your announcement that you're gonna move to defer this to another date, yeah? Yeah, you need to announce that for decision.
I did.
Okay, all right. Okay, we'll continue on then to SB, is that mine? Okay, 2184 relating to adaptation pathways planning. Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. We'll adopt the DLNR's recommendation, which would acknowledge the impacts of the climate change on the cultural resources, include the restoration or the remediation of the shoreline as a goal, and recognize that commercial and industrial properties are also at risk, and will defect the date to July 1st, 2050. Okay, any discussions, any comments? Okay, hearing none, the chair's recommendation then for the Committee on Water and Land to approve SB 2184 with amendments. Vice Chair for the vote, Chair goes aye.
Okay, Chair's recommendation is to pass SB 2184 with amendments of the members present on water land. Any no votes or votes with reservations? Hearing none, Madam Chair, recommendation is adopted.
Thank you.
Same recommendation for AEN. Any discussion? Chair votes aye.
Chair's recommendation, SB 2184, is to pass with amendments, noting the excused absence of Vice Chair. Any noes, any reservations? Seeing none, recommendations adopted.
Okay, SB 3300 relating to coastal zone management. Chair's recommendation is we keep this measure alive to pass with these amendments. We'll adopt the OPSD's recommended amendments clarifying the language in Section 3, Item F as in Frank for HRS 205-26, Item 3, and will defect the date to July 1st, 2050. Any discussions?
Chair, just clarification. So then we're just gonna
Senator
pass this, yeah,
Favela.
we're gonna pass this over to WAM, right? So
This
just what,
goes to Ways and Means,
Yeah.
yes, Senator
okay,
Favela.
and then this when we can like, again, maybe possible adjust it, because it's happening now, we gotta make sure we protect our seabeds, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, and we'll defect the date to July 1st, 2050. Any further discussions? Hearing none, Vice Chair for the Committee on Water and Land is to pass with amendments. Chair goes aye.
Okay, Chair's recommendation is to pass SB 3300 with amendments. Any no votes or votes with reservations? Hearing none, Madam Chair, recommendation is adopted.
Thank you.
Same recommendation for AEN. Any discussion? Chair votes aye.
Chair's recommendation on SB 3300 is to pass with amendments, noting the excused absence of Vice Chair. Any noes or reservations? Seeing none, recommendations adopted.
Okay, who's over to us? Yeah. On SB 2373 relating to irrigation, the chair's recommendation will be to pass as is. Any discussion? Chair votes aye.
Chair's recommendation on SB 2373 is to pass as is, noting the excused absence of the Vice Chair. Any noes or reservations? Everyone else voting in the affirmative, recommendations adopted.
Okay, for the Committee on Water and Land, Chair's recommendation, the same, SB 2373, to pass as is. Any further discussions? Hearing none, Vice Chair for the vote for Water and Land, Chair goes aye.
Okay, Chair's recommendations to pass SB 2373 as is of the members present. Any no votes or votes with reservations? Hearing none, Madam Chair, recommendations adopted.
Thank you.
And then on SB 2596 relating to important ag lands, based on the testimony by the Land Use Commission about the Supreme Court legal action being brought by the City and County of Honolulu, the Chair's recommendation would be to defer this measure.
Okay, Water and Land agrees. Thank you.
Okay. And then let's see. And on SB 2575, relating to the environment, on mining, extraction, and removal of minerals. Hang on. Yeah, the Chair's recommendation would be to pass as is. Any discussion? Chair votes aye.
Chair's recommendation on SB 2575 is to pass as is, noting the excused absence of Vice Chair. Anyone voting with reservations or no? Seeing none, recommendations adopted.
Thank you, members.
Okay, for the Committee on Water and Land, same recommendation to pass as is on SB 2575. Vice Chair for the vote. Chair goes aye.
Okay, Chair's recommendations to pass SB 2575 as is of the members present. Any no votes or votes with reservations? Hearing none, Madam Chair, recommendations adopted.
Thank you.
Next measure is SB 2803 on the Kohala Ditch. Chair, members, we need a little bit more time on this one, gathering information and have some questions that need to be answered. So I'm going to recommend that we defer decision-making for AEN until Friday at 1:05 p.m. on February 9th in room 224.
Okay, for the Committee on Water and Land, Chair's recommendation that we defer for decision-making on SB 2803, and Committee on Agriculture and Environment, will you let us know what your decisions is prior to that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, can you repeat again the deferment date, please?
Yes, that's Friday, 1:05 p.m., February 9th in room 224.
Okay, thank you.
Then moving on to the last measure on today's agenda, joint agenda, SB 2932, relating to ag, CIP projects for the ag infrastructure of the state. Chair's recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? Chair votes aye.
Chair's recommendation on SB 2932 is to pass as is, noting the excused absence of the Vice Chair. Anyone wishing to vote no or with reservations? All others voting in the affirmative, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members.
Okay, for the Committee on Water and Land, Chair's recommendation is to pass SB 2932 as is. Any discussions? Hearing none, Vice Chair for the vote. Chair goes aye.
Okay, Chair's recommendations to pass SB 2932 as is of the members present. Any no votes or votes with reservations? Hearing none, Madam Chair, recommendations adopted.
Okay, thank you.
That's your gavel.
Okay, this concludes the Joint Water and Land and the Committee on Agriculture and Environment.